So it was a crushing blow to the Trump regime and state regime media known as Fox and the right-wing ecosphere in general that the killer of Charlie Kirk was, to use a phrase by Utah's governor, one of their own, a 22-year-old white guy from a religious family in Utah, a gun-toting family, a Trump-supporting family. To be fair, the killer's political affiliations are still unclear. He dressed up like Donald Trump for Halloween in 2017. There are some who say he's a far-right guy, like a Groyper or whatever. No, he's a far-left guy. He's a 22-year-old white guy who looks like he could come from any MAGA family, and that is narrative shattering for Trump, for MAGA, for the right-wing media ecosphere who wanted to use this to sow more division and to attack Democrats and the leftists. So what are they doing? They're going to go back to the well and try to blame transgender people. And I want to expose for you the anatomy of how they go and do this in some of the most dastardly and insidious ways. We saw it happening yesterday. This is how they build these narratives, and they turn on the faucet and they push it out through their media influencer network, because for them, it can't be, again, to use the quote from the governor of Utah, one of our own, it's gotta be transgender. They're the ones who did it, transgender leftist Democrats. So let's go through the anatomy right now, and let me introduce you to someone named Brooke Singman. She is a digital reporter for Fox. She's someone who is very close to the Trump regime. Her name has been talked about as a future replacement of Caroline Leavitt. She spread many a false story before, in my opinion, on behalf of the Trump regime, on behalf of the MAGA Republicans. I'll go through that with you, but I want to show you the quid pro quo that kind of takes place. I'm going to get you a source, Brooke, but you got to say something nice about me, because I'm getting a little bit screwed right now for the way I handled this. In my opinion, that's what Kash Patel said. He was at Rayo's Italian restaurant when he was blaming other people for the shooting who was not involved in the shooting, and he had to issue retractions. He's been utterly humiliating, but he's an utterly humiliating person who is unqualified and inexperienced and dangerous and should never have had the job in the first place. So here's an article published by Brooke Singman yesterday, September 13th. Trump praises FBI Director Kash Patel for speedy capture of Charlie Kirk assassin. In an exclusive interview with Fox News Digital, Trump said he was very proud of the FBI. That's trying to build back up Kash. The source added, there's a source, the evidence was getting back to the labs in rapid speed. That's why he was caught so quickly, referring to Tyler Robinson, the 22-year-old white guy from the Trump-supporting family that was the killer. The DNA was being analyzed through the night because the director was there, because Kash was there, and he was directing all of this, the source told Fox Digital. He directed everyone and said, "You're going to get the evidence out now." Now, we all know what really happened. Tyler Robinson's dad turned in Tyler Robinson. Tyler Robinson confessed to his dad. You look like the guy in the video. Is that you? Yes, Dad, it's me. And then he said, "I'd rather kill myself." And Dad said, "Speak to a pastor." The pastor and the dad turn him into the police. And then he gets caught. Nothing to do with the FBI. The FBI botched this entire thing. But they're saying, oh, it was because Kash was in the lab doing all of the work. Okay, so that's part of the quid pro quo. You got to write this story about Kash. We're going to give you something. Then the regime, and this is why you shouldn't have a politicized FBI with an agenda. Trump's agenda, the FBI agenda, caused division, blame this on trans. Before, remember, they said trans ideology was etched onto the cartridges, and that was not etched onto the cartridges. What was etched onto it was like weirdo meme game culture, video game culture stuff, and stuff said, if you're reading this, you're gay, and up arrow, left arrow, right arrow, like cheat codes for a game to unlock bombs, like things like that for video games. But then Brooke Sigmund, same day, she's got a source. I don't know, Brooke. Is it the source that said the evidence was getting back to the lab so quickly? But Brooke's got a source, everybody. And here's what the source tells her, exclusive. Charlie Kirk assassin Tyler Robinson lived with his transgender partner, sources tell me. The individual, who is a male, transitioning to a female, is fully cooperating with the FBI. Sources tell me the FBI had texts and other communications between Robinson and the individual that helped FBI authorities solidify that Robinson was indeed the shooter. I want you to notice some of that language that's used there too, that helped them solidify. The dad turned him in. So what do you mean help solidify? And then you say that this individual, who you claim to be trans, was fully cooperating with the FBI. So somebody who's been very helpful after the dad turned his own son in is now responsible for the 20... Just accept their facts as true for a second, which I don't. But that's who's now responsible for the 22-year-old white kid or white guy who was engaged in the shooting, Tyler Robinson, from the MAGA Republican family, the gun-toting family. Now you're going to try to blame it on trans. So you know that she's the Fox Digital reporter. Fox parent company, News Corp, also owns New York Post. So then you launder Brooke Sigmund's exclusive into the New York Post, okay? So then the New York Post, also owned by Murdoch, they then say Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin, Tyler Robinson, lived with transgender partner, source. So it goes from Fox Digital to whoever Fox Digital source was, someone who seemed to be praising Cash before, and now the New York Post is now reporting on it. And then you start to see right-wing influencers and right-wing media saying that transgender ideology may be responsible for the shooting. You have Rob Schmidt from a right-wing media network go, Trump told me this morning, Kirk assassin has a trans girlfriend. And then all the Elon Musk accounts start coming out. And there it is. Mental illness is real. Trans violence is very real. This individual radicalized Tyler. If the reporting is right, this individual helped turn Robinson in. So accusing this individual, it's a bit odd, right, when we say that. And then Benny Johnson goes, this is 100 right-wing influencer. This is 100% confirmed. Charlie Kirk killer, Tyler Robinson, had a boyfriend who identified as transgender. This man is cooperating with the FBI. They got to just be like total jerks about it too, and hateful when they say it. This man is cooperating with the FBI and has turned over all electronics and messages. I'm hearing there is much more to come. Yes, this is now officially trans violence. As Maya Luna goes, so let me get this straight. The violence is coming from Tyler's alleged transgender girlfriend who is cooperating with the police, not the white dude who shot and killed Charlie Kirk. Got it. But they just wanted a link. Look, there's some transgender in this. That must be why. Because this guy's one of our own. He's a white 22-year-old kid. He looks like he could be from any MAGA family. By the way, you remember what the governor of Utah said, just so you can see. This is what Governor Cox of Utah said. Play this clip.
You know, this bad stuff happens. For 33 hours, I was praying that if this had to happen here, that it wouldn't be one of us. That somebody drove from another state, somebody came from another country. Sadly, that prayer was not answered the way I had hoped for, just because I thought it would make it easier on us if we could just say, hey, we don't do that here. And indeed, Utah is a special place. We lead the nation in charitable giving. We lead the nation in service every year. But it did happen here.
And then here you have Fox saying that the transgender movement is responsible for many of the mass shootings we are seeing. Here, play this clip.
But the fact that the boyfriend slash roommate slash partner is, transitioning, and the transgender movement just seems to be extremely problematic these days. And many of the mass shootings that we're seeing in this instance, it was the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
And by the way, as more evidence came out, I don't know if this individual is transgender, if it's a roommate, if it's a boyfriend, if it's a girlfriend. I don't know this. I don't know the story. I don't know. And the issue is nobody here really knows. And they've been false over and over again. And then Ari Drennan says, tell me why this person is being dragged through the mud right now, who said that one FBI official told Fox News Digital the individual has been extremely cooperative and said the person had no idea Robinson was allegedly planning to assassinate the Turning Point USA founder. So they bury that in the article, that this individual, who now right-wing media is saying is responsible for trans violence, for the shooting, for having a relationship that may or may not even exist with the shooter, is extremely cooperative and had no clue about the shooting, other than may have recognized the individual after he was turned in by his father. So then the Daily Mail, by the way, I've seen headlines like this. This individual in Robinson's female next door neighbor, who asked to remain anonymous, told Daily Mail the young men were reclusive and that she had spoken to this individual twice in the past 2 years. So their next door neighbor said that she did not see anything about this individual that indicated that he was transgender. So this idea of transgender, one of the things people think that they're getting transgender is that there was a photo from 2 years ago on TikTok of this individual where they used an avatar that was a female avatar because they were a gamer, and they were saying, could that be it? The point, though, isn't whether, even if you accepted the facts as true and said that Tyler had a transgender girlfriend and that they lived together, and the transgender girlfriend didn't know about the assassination, that somehow that this is transgender. That's the most deranged thing I've ever heard. And they're trying to make this was a transgender attack on Charlie Kirk. It was a 22-year-old white guy from a MAGA family. So then you go through this reporting as well about Discord. Tyler Robinson may have revealed details about Charlie Kirk murder to roommate on Discord, according to Perp Papers, but a Discord spokesperson told TMZ, in the course of our investigation, we identified a Discord account associated with the suspect, but have found no evidence that the suspect planned this incident or promoted violence on Discord. The statement goes on to say, the messages referenced in recent reporting about planning details do not appear to be Discord messages. These were communications between the suspect's roommate and a friend after the shooting, where the roommate was recounting the contents of a note the suspect had left elsewhere. So it's possible that this FBI source, who wants everybody to know that Kash Patel is super great, is using what was on the Discord, which is what the roommate may have said they found on a desk, to somehow connect this to transgender violent. Like what? By the way, the Wall Street Journal a few days ago, they had to retract their own reporting where they talked about there was transgender etchings on the cartridges. Also, Reuters reported that at the time of the shooting, Robinson was living at his parents' house in Washington, Utah, a farming and residential community of approximately 28,000 near Zion National Park in southwestern Utah. Robinson's gray Dodge Challenger, the vehicle that authorities say he drove to the site of the shooting, was parked on Friday outside of the two-story home in a relatively new housing development built among fields there. So the Reuters reporting and what we had heard was that it was he was living at home with his parents. I don't know. It's possible he had an apartment, but was also living with his parents. I don't know. But that's what Reuters was reporting. But then all the right-wing media, all of them tried to then push the narrative that it was actually connected through information they found about his transgender girlfriend. And Governor Cox and everyone said his dad turned him in. But that's why the language from Fox was helped solidify so that others could then use it and then say source, and they're citing Fox Digital. So this was an article from Style back on March 20th, 2025. Meet Brooke Sigmund, U.S. Representative Guy Reschenthaler's girlfriend, a MAGA Republican Congress member's girlfriend. She's one of Fox's brightest young stars, an opera singer and Trump insider, and could she become Donald Trump's press secretary? So another story Sigmund broke about Biden that turned out to be completely false was the story about Alexander Smirnov, who was later charged by the FBI for making false statements. In 2023, Sigmund's exclusive report for Fox Digital publicized bribery allegations based on an FBI informant's claims that Joe and Hunter Biden accepted bribes from a Ukrainian energy company. The claims were debunked in February 2024. The Justice Department charged the informant, Alexander Smirnov, with 2 counts of lying to the FBI. So that was her source there. And then recently, Mark Zaid, who's been on the MeidasTouch network before, she did another exclusive. The @IRS fires Holly Paz, a top aide linked to Lois Lerner and the Tea Party targeting scandal. Sources tell me. And then Mark Zaid goes, this story is 100% false. My firm represents Holly, and she has absolutely not been fired by the IRS. We have sent Fox a legal demand to withdraw the story completely and will pursue defamation litigation if necessary. And then he gives an update. She doesn't respond, but they change their story. And Mark writes, while failing to show any professionalism, Fox Digital and reporter Brooke Sigmund never responded to my outreach, but they completely modified their fake news story, thereby admitting that their sources were 100% wrong. No doubt other opportunities will rise to sue them, and it seems they're doing it again. Also, there had to be a retraction that was issued from The Guardian. One of the sources that they had spoken to was someone who claimed to go to school with Tyler Robinson and said that he had leftist views, and it turned out that that individual did not really know Tyler Robinson and could not make those statements at all. I want to give you this fact as well, that over the past 10 years, out of 5,200 shootings, only 5 of them have been committed by transgender people. 5 of 5,200, okay? The vast majority of shootings have been committed by straight, white men who are in the age range of Tyler Robinson, or as Governor Cox would say, one of us, one of our guys. Just unfortunately, I was praying that he wouldn't be one of us, but he turned out to be one of us. That's the anatomy of this disinfo right here. And I want to leave with this because it was been important in my reporting whether Tyler Robinson was right-wing, far right-wing, Trumpy, or left-wing. We are seeing over and over again people who look just like Tyler engaging in these acts. Young white guys who go down this internet rabbit hole, who have this, it almost transcends a specific, like, I'm a Republican or a Democrat. It is this accelerating, revolutionary, what do they call, like NPCs, or like they view themselves as this individual that's going to make a historical mark by engaging in a terroristic act because they're so numb to the world that to feel this, they have to put themselves on this list of others who have engaged in this behavior. And there's this deep, dark, sinister internet culture that festers this hate. And it's not like, oh, I believe in this or I believe in that. And that needs to be addressed and it needs to be looked at. And very frequently, the guy in Butler, Pennsylvania, who did the assassination attempt on Trump, I get, Dylan Roof in Charleston, although that was clearly anti-black racist killing. But we're seeing the profile of people look like this over and over again. And I understand that, Governor Cox was praying it would not be one of us. And Fox was praying it would not be one of us. So because they can't really use it the way they want to use it. So now they go back to trans, leftists, and then boom, they push it out. And they do this with everything. They did it with the wildfires out here in California. Well, I was evacuating my family, not sure about our safety, whether our house was going to burn down. While Los Angeles was going through ridiculous tragedy, boom, they start right away. Lie. You remember Benny Johnson, the person who I showed you there? He would go out and he would, during Biden, he would say, there was a terrorist attack in Buffalo. This is because Biden's made us unsafe. They make up fake terrorist attacks that don't exist. And then they create these AI images on their thumbnails of Arab looking people with accentuated features. And it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Look, I understand that I'm in this political milieu. I get it. I'm viewed as being a big podcaster, in this political space. But for me, I genuinely try to emphasize empathy and bringing people together, condemning political violence, bringing out the receipts. That's what I'm trying to do here with this platform. Anyway, let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million. Thanks for watching.
New Meidas merch. Head to store.MeidasTouch.com today and get yourself the best pro-democracy gear and show your support. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.